What role should dividends play in a well-rounded portfolio? I'm 44 with about 1.5 million of investable assets and 450K a year of income. Big income. Should I prioritize dividend stocks? If so, how? And I might go so far as to say, can you just clarify what dividend stocks are for the newer financial meetings?
Yeah, can I start with a little bit of, I'm going to just do a little vocabulary, investment 101 stuff here. So oftentimes when you buy a share of stock in a company, the company will say, hey, we had some sort of profit that was generated this year, and rather than deploying that profit into the company to expand, we want to pay it out to our owners. We want to make an owner's distribution out to the people that own our stock, and that's called a dividend distribution. What a lot of people don't realize is that when you invest, there are actually two components of return that matter. There is the income component, which is the dividend or the interest or the coupon that you receive. And there's this other component called capital appreciation. It's the idea that if I buy something for $10 and then it goes up to $12, I've had $2 worth of capital appreciation. And so Matt's question is, hey, where does dividend investing play into it? When we think about portfolio construction and investment management and how we allocate returns and how we pursue that, we don't like to bifurcate between those two. We don't think about, okay, what's our dividend return and versus what's our capital appreciation return? What we ultimately care about is total return. When we look at the total value return on the dollars that you're investing, what does that look like and how is that manifested across the capital appreciation component as well as the income component? A lot of people get so excited about dividend investing, like, oh my goodness, look, I've got this 3%, 4% dividend yield that I'm getting on the stock and it's amazing. And I'll say to them, hey, that's wonderful. But if you could have a 4% dividend or a 10% rate of return, like which would you choose, right? Obviously, you would choose the higher one. As an investor, you don't really care where your return comes from if you're not living off of those dollars. Like some people have dividends pay and that's their income stream. That's a different thing than what Matt's talking about, because Matt's just an investor in the accumulation phase. So when I think about how dividend investing plays in, it's part of it, but in my mind, it's not a singular focus. The singular focus ought to be on the big picture. What's my overall asset allocation? Where am I at on the risk spectrum? And what types of investments am I buying to allow me to pursue that level of risk inside my portfolio?
Look, I look at this as a feature versus it being the goal. So, and so much in social media, and I see this all the time, and let me give you another example so you can get your mindset to know what I'm talking about and not think I'm just singling out dividend investing. Is I see people all the time pay off their credit card debt, and it feels so good to pay off the credit card debt. They become what's known as debt crusaders, and they start paying off even low interest debt. Whereas they lost the focus of thinking about what the ultimate goal of how to use the tool of money is, because they got enamored with a feature of something that money can do. And that's what debt crusaders do it. Dividend investors, because I see it all the time where people who are in their 30s will be like, this year I've got $6,500 of dividends coming into me. I'm close to being able to 25% of getting all of my life covered through dividend investing. Do you see how people, that's your focus when you're saying, hey, I got $6,500, I'm just trying to replace like $40,000. You have now made the goal of this income, which should be just a feature, because that's going to preclude you. And Bo, I hate to pick on you. Back when you first started investing.
Oh yeah, no.
And you've told me the story. There was a software company that had like an 11% dividend yield. Because if you start focusing on the feature and that becomes the goal, you might go and you try to get higher dividends. You don't care about the financial foundation of these companies. You're just chasing yield. Whereas you might be much better served, and this is what Bo was getting to, if it was just a component of a total return portfolio. Meaning that, and that's what we do for clients when they're retired. Yes, dividends are a component that we will take into account on somebody's cash flow management plan, but we're still looking at it in total with how much appreciation. Do we need to go sell equities as we're replenishing these safe or risk-off type assets that we're using for our retirees? It's a component of a total portfolio plan, instead of just getting so enamored with the shininess and the coolness that, hey, maybe I'll have, $40,000 worth of dividend income coming in. Because here's the other problem with if you focus on just this feature, it's kind of inefficient. I mean, there's a reason Berkshire Hathaway doesn't issue dividends. I mean, it just doesn't. Now, look, it has dividends coming in. You know, when you read the Uncle Warren's annual report, he shares how much he's got coming in from all the different companies. But a lot of times, you know, dividends are still double taxed. So if for a company, it's much better use to let them go and innovate and expand versus, you know, paying to income taxes and then sending that out to your investors, and then they have to pay income tax on it. It's got a double taxation component to it. That is something. That's why don't let it. You're going to get dividends, but don't let it be the driving factor of your financial decision making.
I think Warren. I think it was in one of his letter showers. He said, "Hey, here's the reason why we don't pay dividends. When you pay a dividend, you're making an assessment that who can allocate this capital better, the company in which it's operating, or the shareholder who's outside of the company, like who can use that." He says, right now, we believe that we can deliver the most value to our shareholders by retaining those profits and reinvesting as opposed to paying them out as dividends. If we ever believe that we will not be able to achieve a superior rate of return relative to what our stockholders can do on their own, then we'll issue a dividend. So I think it's a great way to think.
Well, think about the maturity of a company. I mean, when Microsoft started issuing dividends, when Apple started issuing dividends, this is a maturity level within the company, but where was the exponential growth that we all get excited and get in a frenzy about? It's usually during that innovative state. That's why let it be a component of a complete overall plan. This is just a feature of it versus, because you would miss out on, if you were just chasing yield, you might miss out on the next latest, greatest thing that's built into the S&P 500 as AI and all this innovation is going on. And that's why I would just don't get distracted. That's probably the best way by dividend investing.